guest with us today is Geoff Stevens. Geoff's with the Pathways Care Farm. It's just north of Lowestoft. We have spoken to him several times before, but I thought it would be lovely to catch up with the latest on the farm. I get their newsletters, and donkeys were mentioned in the last one. I rather like donkeys. If I ever had room, I would keep them.
On the sofa. BBC Radio Suffolk.
Hello, Geoff.
Hi, Leslie. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are the donkeys?
Oh, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. My favourites, they are.
Oh, so tell me, how many have you got?
Just two. We've got Joe and Malone.
Tell me a bit more. Were they young, or how old are they? And
Well, in donkey years, they're not too bad. They're teenagers, really. Donkeys can live to 40 or more. So we got them from the Donkey Sanctuary down in Devon, and they were rescued. They were hand-picked, really, for us. They had to come out and visit the farm and check that we were going to be able to look after them well. And I think they now agree that they've probably not had two more spoiled donkeys ever.
So I guess that all your visitors want to go and pet the donkeys, don't they?
Yeah, it's one or two are a little bit more nervous because they are quite big beasts. But they're very, very popular. I'd always say I don't know how we survive without them, to be honest.
Oh.
They're an amazing addition to the farm.
Give me a virtual. I know we've done this before, but it's been a while since we've chatted to you. Just give me a sort of a virtual tour of your farm. Okay.
As you come in the gate, we're right near Tesco's in North Lowestoft, so it's very unusual for a farm to be on the edge of town. Most farms are sort of more rural, and therefore difficult to get to. But we're not difficult to get to. This used to be a bigger farm, about 120 acres, and it was cut down a number of years ago when the council sold off a lot of the land to a housing developer. And so they didn't give planning permission for our little bit. So we were left with 13 acres, literally on the edge of a housing estate. You have to go through the housing estate to get to us, which is quite unusual to get to a farm. In fact, I've even had people stop in the road outside and phone me and say, I'm in a housing estate, where's the farm?
I can believe that.
Yeah, just keep going.
Yeah.
You come in through the gates, there's a car park on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is where the lovely part of the farm starts, where we have a beautiful sensory garden, which is every pathway is made of something different. There's lots of different plantings. There's a little pond with a waterfall. There's different fragrances. We've got a herb bed with lavender and rosemary and sage and stuff. And there's all sorts of different sensory experiences as you go around the sensory garden. And then we go through a wardrobe, which is the entrance into our orchard. But we always talk about going through into Narnia. And we've actually got a Christmas tree planted just the other side of the wardrobe. So you go into, you can tell it's Narnia because there's a Christmas tree there.
Do you have fur coats hanging in the wardrobe?
We've got a fur lining on the wardrobe.
Fantastic.
So we haven't got fur coats, but we've got a fur lining.
Fantastic.
So we try and make it as authentic as we can. And then you weave your way through the orchard. The trees are just starting to mature now. We had our first crop of apples last year. And then as you go through there's a housing estate on the right-hand side, and then you get down to where the old entrance to the farm used to be, which we don't use anymore. And you turn left, you go past the field with the alpacas on the left-hand side, past the hedge, and then into the woodland walk. You go through a beautiful wooded area. It's just the most idyllic walk. People can't believe that they're less than 100 yards from Tesco's when they're in this woodlands, because it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's beautifully groomed. There's daffodils and tulips and wild garlic and bluebells that grow up in there. And the snowdrops this year were spectacular. Just the most lovely little relaxing walk. And then at the end of the woodland walk, you come out, you go over a bridge into a little coppice area where we've planted 300 trees. You can go up into the top field where we've got hay growing at the moment, so we're self-sufficient on hay. And then there's a big pond in the middle, which we don't own. It's owned by Essex and Suffolk Water, and it's a balancing pond where all the drain water goes down into the estate, into this drain, feeds into the pond, and when it gets to a certain depth, it flows back out through a sluice into a stream, which cuts across our land. And it just is the most fantastic place for wildlife. So on this pond, which must be at least an acre, if not more, in size, we've got a bird hide, we've got walks that go around it, but you can sit there with binoculars or just with your naked eye and see every kind of bird that you can imagine. We've got all the small birds, but then we've got birds of prey. There's a kingfisher that we see on a regular basis. It's absolutely wonderful. And then you go back over another bridge to get back onto the main part of the farm, up past some of the paddocks where we've got the donkeys will be out grass, eating the grass there. We've got the goats in we call it the Goat Palace. It's a great big barn that my son built, and it's so spectacular that we call it a palace rather than a barn. So the goats have their own palace. And then the floor of the pig, and then we've got the ducks and the geese and the chickens, and then the pygmy goats just before you get back to the main area where all the barns are and where we look after each other and eat and drink and shelter if it's wet.
Sounds phenomenal. And you've got haven't you got a cafe as well? Or
the cafe's not open yet.
You've been doing
almost,
that.
Yeah, we're doing that. We've got the kitchen finished. We're currently running a course for people to. It's called Learning and Growing Healthily Together, and that is where we're teaching people about nutrition and diet, and then we're putting them through food hygiene level 1 and level 2, and a catering qualification so that they can work in the kitchen. And then we're going to start opening up and having the public come into the cafe. So that will be later in the year. So a new development where we can try and have a small business enterprise going as well to try and supplement our income.
Is it really only 7 years since you opened?
Yeah.
That's fun. And do you ever pinch yourself? Because you've worked really hard, haven't you? Because I remember talking to you ages ago about clearing brambles. Yeah, we spent 18 months just clearing brambles, and I think I've still got a few thorns stuck in my fingers. But no, it is 7 years. You look back, it's like everything. When you look back, you can say, "Wow, was it really that long ago?" Or you can say, "That was like yesterday." You've got that sort of real mixture of feelings because we're living it all the time. So therefore, It seems like the progress is really slow. But then other times, so we have a work party the first Saturday of each month where we get tradesmen and gardeners and people just turn up and help us to do some of the stuff we don't get a chance to do during the week. And therefore, everything changes month by month with the bigger stuff. We're working on some accessible toilets at the moment and building a bakery. So those things, that it takes a good few months to do what you might be able to do in a week if you were doing it every day of the week. So on one level, it's taking us forever. But on another level, if you only visit now and again, then it seems like it's all speeded up and it's phenomenally quick. Yeah. And tell me about some of the clients, the people that come to see you.
Well, we support people with mental ill health, learning difficulties and dementia. We have basically we start off with adults. So we have over 18s, and our oldest at the moment is in their early 80s. And everything in between. We have a mixture of people on any one day. So we don't have a day that is all to do with autism or a day that's all to do with dementia. We mix everybody up. And we found that some of our best friendships have occurred with people from totally different categories that you might not expect them to get on well together, but incredible friendships formed where they'll just even phone each other outside. We've got one young lady now who's 32 with autism and other difficulties, some anxiety issues and things. And she just got her driving license back after a couple of years. And she now gives a lift to the 80-year-old with Alzheimer's who lives around the corner to her and brings her in, which saves her daughter doing the journey. And it's just wonderful where you get this cross-fertilization of different people, groups that in everyday life you wouldn't have together, And actually, one of the issues with society is that we tend to judge people. So we look at people who might have a learning difficulty or dementia and think they're a bit different or be a little bit nervous about engaging with them. Whereas on the farm, we're all equal. Absolutely everybody's equal. None of us wear badges to say I'm staff and you're not. We're all just first names, and we just get on and we do all the jobs together and we're friends together. And it works. It's the most blissful kind of community.
How do people find, do they get referred to you?
Yeah, people get referred. You can have self-referrals, but mostly it comes through social services. So we are very well supported by social services, I must say. And that would be probably in excess of 80% of our clientele. So that's good. And then you know that they're well supported on the whole of that front. They don't have to worry about where any fees might come from or anything like that. So we can just get on with the business of being friends. It's so and we can get referrals from GPs. Are just starting to get more into. You've possibly heard about social prescribing, which is a fantastic concept. In my opinion, it doesn't. This could be controversial. In my opinion, so I will say that. In my opinion, social prescribing doesn't work brilliantly at the moment because it only covers areas where there's a free service at the end of it. So I don't know if you know about social prescribing, but some of the listeners might not. You could go to your GP and you could talk to a practitioner there and say, I've got some mental health issues, I've got a lot of anxiety. And they might say, hopefully they won't just say, take some diazepam. They might just say, actually, there's a service that would do you some good. And that might be join a rambling society. It might be going to join a football club or a netball club. But it might be that they get referred to a care farm. And the trouble with that is that unless there's a fee attached to that, we can't take them because it does cost to run the farm. So therefore, we have to charge people. So if a referrer can pay for it, then that means that we can accept them and we can help them out. But if social prescribing, what they need to do is find a pot of money that can back up where the referrer can actually then send someone to a service like ours, as well as to a free service, whatever's the most appropriate.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. Is what you're doing now, is the farm doing now, what you envisaged? Is it much better, or is it exactly what you thought you were setting out to do?
That's a great question. I think it, in principle, it's the same, but the practice itself is more mature now. I was having this conversation with Mandy, our operations manager, this morning. I think we're a more mature organisation now, so the way we're doing things is a little bit better. We're less naive. We're connected in with other agencies, with other organisations, with other professionals, and we can help cross-refer as well. So if people need more specific help, we can help them with that area. We're able to help people maybe move more into paid employment or voluntary work as well. So it's not just giving people a good day anymore. That is a really key part of what we do. But we can also now develop that a bit further. So I would say that in principle it's the same, but we have matured and we're now able to offer maybe more than we envisaged at the beginning.
Care Farm Plus.
Care Farm Plus.
I'm gonna play a bit of music, then we're going to come back as well, and I'll get you to just tell the story of how you were inspired to do this. I love your newsletters. I get them sort of drop into my inbox, so I always sit and read them, regardless of how busy I am. I always have a read. One day I'll get to visit you, I have to say as well. I'd love to bring my mum along as well, who has dementia.
Yeah.
So that she would. My dad would love it there as well. We'll come back and talk to you more in a minute or two, Geoff. So Geoff Stevens, Chair of Trustees at the Pathways Care Farm, just north of Lowestoft, as you heard, right next door to Tesco's. A lovely story, isn't it? And we'll get him to explain how he was inspired to set it up.
On the sofa. BBC Radio Suffolk.
Geoff Stevens is with us. He is the Chair of Trustees, came up with Pathways Care Farm just north of Lowestoft, opened just 7 years ago, although I think there was quite a bit more work before then. So, Geoff, take me back to the whole inspiration.
Okay, I'll just correct you. I'm not Chair of Trustees any longer.
Oh, you're not? That's my old information.
Well, it is, yeah. I started off as Chair of Trustees when we started the charity, but then after a few years of me working for nothing, I was basically told by the other trustees that I needed to get paid. So I'm now paid, and therefore I'm now director, and we have a new Josh, who's now our Chair of Trustees, who's much better at it than I am.
Aren't you CEO probably, aren't you? Chief Exec?
Well, no, they said, do you want to be Chief Exec? And I said, no, I don't like that title. Can I just be director? If I have to have a title, So, no, I don't like big titles. I'm so self-effacing.
Whatever. You're founder and director, I shall say. I'll write it down.
I am founder and director.
So we'll change our details in our details here. So but and wasn't it because your father-in-law had dementia? Is that right? Have I got that right? Yeah, you have. Yeah, my father-in-law was a wonderful builder and a carpenter and a very creative man of few words, but very creative, very caring man. And he started developing Alzheimer's. No, it wasn't. It was vascular dementia, not Alzheimer's. And we didn't know anything about it really at the time. My mother-in-law didn't know anything about it and kept waiting for him to get better. And we helped support him for about the next 10 years until he died. And it was quite tragic watching this great creative man just lose the ability to speak and communicate and do things for himself. And the way that people treated him, just going to the shops where he couldn't talk, but he had money and he'd give it to them. And sometimes if he fell over in the street, which occasionally he could do because of his perception of curbs and that kind of thing, people would walk past him thinking he was drunk because he couldn't talk. He was slurring his words. And you think, no, this is just a horrible disease. So after he died, we were thinking there must be something better than what he was offered, which was just to go to a day centre and play bingo. And nothing wrong with that if that's what you like. But he had never played bingo in his life, and it just didn't suit his personality and what motivated him. Give him a piece of wood in his hand and he'd just look at it for hours, and you don't lose those tactile perceptions and the ability to use a saw and that kind of thing. So we started looking around, what could be done better? What could be done that would suit these people better? And I came across, just by chance, the concept of care farming. I'm actually a graphic designer. I've run a graphic design business most of my life and met my wife at art college. And it was the alien to me, really. I've done a lot of charity work all over the place, all over the world, but never really thought about doing charity work in this country too much. And then came across the concept of care farming, which is really what it says on the tin. It's using a farm to do caring. And so the care of the farming is just the tools that we use. So we have animals, we grow vegetables, and that gives people a nice day. It gives them something to do. But it's the caring side. It's being supportive and having a community that works together and giving people value and dignity and all that stuff that actually helps people to feel accepted and loved and wanting to come and wanting to be there and engaging with us. So, yeah, it was really because of him that I came across the concept of care farming. I approached Suffolk County Council, who had this piece of land that we've now got, which is about a mile from my home, and it was up for auction, or not an auction, it was a tender process. And I put a team together, we started the charity, and I put in a bid for the tender, and we won it. So that was great. I got a 20-year lease, and then I managed to increase that, and then I increased it again, and now I've got a 99-year lease, which is brilliant. So it might even see me out. It's such a lovely story. It's changed your life as well, hasn't it? Totally. The best thing I've ever done. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I recommend it to anybody. Just being out in the open air, working with nature, working with animals, and supporting people who are vulnerable, but who are amazing people.
in their own right. We don't just do it for them; we do it for us as well. So yeah, it's a great thing to do.
Oh, well, it's such a fantastic story, and people can look you up, can't they? And they can get the newsletter and so on as well if they want to find out more. I assume you have to raise funds as well.
Yeah, we're always trying to raise funds. Yeah, some of my favourite people at Suffolk Community Foundation, who I lean on a lot. But yes, we're always after people who, anyone out there who's rather wealthy and wants to get to know a bit more about us and support us, that would be good. But yeah, the website is Pathways Care Farm. Just look us up on Google, and you can subscribe to the newsletter, get all the news once a month. We don't use it for any other kind of marketing, so you're safe. We're not going to go hounding you. But I do my best on the newsletter. I'm glad that you enjoy it.
I enjoy it. Didn't your dad write? I wondered if there was sort of some inside you, some desire to write a bit.
Yeah, my dad was very creative. He was good at most things, actually. He worked in law, and he had a real gift with writing, beautiful handwriting as well. I can't write like he does, but no, he was he probably was an inspiration a bit, I think. Yeah, I've got two brothers, and all three of us have got different aspects of what my dad had. So between us all, we make up one dad.
Oh, I will visit one day. I know that I think Matt's been out and seen you as well. It sounds so amazing. Look, we've run out of time pretty much, but I've got some quick questions to throw at you, okay, just to test you out. Yep. So I know you used to love your sport. So watching sport, which do you prefer, cricket or football?
Cricket.
What about playing it? Which did you prefer?
Cricket.
Writing or drawing?
Oh, interesting. I would say writing.
Ooh, beer or whiskey?
Beer, definitely.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
News or drama on telly?
Oh, difficult one. Depends on the quality of the drama and how bad the news is.
I was going to say yes these days, yeah. Cooking or being cooked for?
I love cooking. I really love cooking. I don't do it enough. And if I do cook, it's a whole day event. So it takes me hours, and I clear up as I go along. But I do love it. It's a wonderful thing to do. Okay,
cheese or chocolate?
Cheese.
Vacation or staycation?
Staycation, probably.
And your final question, animals or people?
People.
For a minute, I thought you were going to say animals.
No, I love animals, but without people, it doesn't. Nothing matters without people.
You're doing an amazing job, and thank you for taking the time to chat again. I'm sure we'll be in touch again in the future, but thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Leslie.
Geoff Stevens, look him up. Look, Pathways Care Farm. It's pathways-care-farm.org.uk, but as he says, just search for Pathways Care Farm and find out lots more.